I was like, okay, like I'm just going to keep cold messaging people. And I just did that. And literally from 14 and a half to 16, when I did my first six figures, all of my clients came through Facebook cold messaging. I was working at an Apple Orchard, a movie theater, up
Whoa.
until 2020, right? So I was already making six figures. I was making more than my managers. And then I had a VA who I kept on a little longer. And we slowly just started offboarding clients and shifting. And so there was end of last year in October being like, frick, like I need to restart.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to another video and interview here. I'm here with Josh Gavin, who ironically is like one of the first people I've ever found running an agency. And for those of you who are teenagers, he got started as a very young teenager. So some cool insights that we'll have from him there. Today, he's running a company called Ad Free Funnels. Really cool stuff that they're doing there, similar to some of the outreach that you may have seen, outreach strategies that you may have seen on my channel. I actually referenced him in one of my most popular videos about outreach, and that's how this interview came about. So anyway, Josh Gavin maybe needs no introduction, but I gave him one anyway. Thanks for being on here, man.
Dude, super excited. I already know we're gonna have a great conversation because the one we had before we clicked record was awesome. So I'm fired up and I'm ready to dive into it.
Sweet, man. Thanks so much. So let's hear a little background. How old were you when you started the whole online business thing, and how did you get started?
Yeah. So originally how it started for me is I didn't want to take an ACT test. I don't want to sound like a classic cheesy entrepreneur who's like, yeah, I just didn't, college wasn't for me. It's like, no, I just didn't want to do school.
Mm.
I probably was pretty lazy. I had skills elsewhere. And so I went on to YouTube and I looked up how to make money, like many of us did. And first I got hit by all the drop shipping gurus out there.
Mm.
And I jumped into that first. So my first taste of internet marketing was launching a drop shipping brand, and then quickly realizing that I wouldn't make millions or even thousands of dollars without a bunch of upfront investment for ad spend. And so I quickly realized I had to pivot.
Mm.
So that led me into the world of SMMA. Shout out Iman Gadzi. And so by the age of 14 and a half, about, that's when I
Wow.
started my agency, and like actively pursued local businesses.
14 and a half, dude. I
Yeah.
love it.
And
I
like
like
I'm
when,
not, it's true. Like what's funny is like people are like, are you saying it's like, nah, man, I've posted on Facebook like the day I started my agency all the way back to then. So we
yeah.
have the proof, and like I have the videos of me in my parents' moldy basement, which you probably remember, with terrible Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
So
dude.
like, yeah, it's true. It's out there.
It's funny, man, because you like the first time I found you, I guess you would have been, how old are you now? 21?
I'm 20, so
20.
yeah,
Yeah.
you probably, I was like,
First time I found you would have been like 17, 16.
mhm.
And like even now, I'm like the world watched Josh Gavin grow up. Like
Yeah. And my background change, it's funny, like back before I was like the old farmhouse basement, it was like mole, it was bad, and like the Wi-Fi would cut out,
No,
but
dude, it was
we
charming.
made
That's
it.
what it was.
We made it.
Okay, so you start reaching out to local businesses. How did you get your first couple clients, and what were you selling them?
Yeah, so first client I actually got through Fiverr. So it doesn't really count
Mm.
necessarily to being like direct outreach. I think they posted a gig. I reached out to them, and it was $300 a month. And I was managing his Facebook ad account. So we were like running some like engagement ads back then for him. He was an artist in Canada. And I remember he paid me off of Fiverr on PayPal, and that money was held for like the first 30 days. And so I was like so excited. And I was like, are you kidding me? I have to wait 30 days so I can like taste this money. So that was my first client. And that was great. Learned a lot, really cool. And that really led me on the rest of the journey of getting my next ones. But that was how I got my first client, was just through like Fiverr. And
And
reaching
what
out to
was the
them.
service?
I was pitching like ad management. So literally, I was like, "What do you want?" He's like, "I just want more likes and like reach," because back then businesses did not know anything.
Yeah.
That's what they cared about. So I was like, "Cool, let's do that." Set up a campaign and launched it, and yeah, so
And
I
you
was very
made how much off that first guy?
that was $300. So one
Nice.
month. It was 1 month. Crazy stuff happened. I saw he was having an affair in his DMs on Facebook. He
Oh
realized I
wow.
could see that and got embarrassed and canceled me out. So yeah, it was a crazy story for me. I was so young. I'm like, what is this? So
Oh
great.
man, look at that.
Shout out
So
that guy.
then Did you keep doing like Upwork, Fiverr jobs, or did you start direct outreach after that?
Yeah, so I realized I was like, I didn't like how I was competing with everyone else on the platform, and I really wanted to just compete against myself and be in my own space.
Mm,
And so back then, the Ty Lopez's and the Iman Gadzis and all their little spawnlings were teaching us to cold call. That was
mm.
like the method. Like that was a cool thing. Like even now, I mean, it was a buzzword. You go on YouTube, type in cold calling, all the SMA gurus, it's like a keyword,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so that was the thing. But right? I'll start my agency at 14 and a half. I didn't have a phone. My parents were like, if you want a phone, you have to pay for it.
Mm,
My voice was super high and squeaky. I mean, I was 14 years old, right?
yeah.
I sounded probably younger than 14.
Yeah.
And I was extremely nervous, no results, no confidence. So, like, what type of 14-year-old in that kind of situation could cold call a business, book a meeting and then actually show up in person? Because that's what people were doing back then. Like,
Mm,
I couldn't do that. I was in like rural Minnesota. There weren't local businesses I could go to. Like, that was my situation.
yeah.
But I was so sold on this idea of having an agency, and I was so hyped up in the beginning stages and like being like, I'm gonna be like Iman Gadzhi and whatever. I'm gonna get watches, and I was like, I'm gonna do this. So like back then, that was the motivation. It's definitely changed. But and I was like, okay, I still need to get clients. And so what I realized, like, okay, how can I hide from these businesses? I'm 14 years old without lying to them and still get them to pay me. Like that was the question I had. And so I started looking for other sources to reach out and get in contact with these companies because I was like, okay, I just need to be able to have a conversation with them. Like there's currency in conversations,
Mm,
the currency is in the conversations. How can I have a conversation with them? If it can't be over the phone, what else can I do? So for me, I was like, well, I don't want to do email because I don't know how to like set up all the stuff so I don't get blocked. And so I just went on Facebook and I started reaching out to business pages back then,
mm.
and people in groups. So I know you know me because I talk a lot about organic on Facebook, but it's actually crazy because like my next client after that $300 one came from somebody I reached out to on Facebook. I didn't even have a sales call with them. I got lucky; they didn't care for one, and I
Mm.
converted them over Messenger through their Facebook page. Right, they're on their Facebook page, and they were a monthly client for like 1,000 a month for a bouncy house rental company.
Nice.
So, which is a really cool niche. Actually, it's really easy to get them results.
Wow.
And it's high ticket too.
Mm,
So that was the market I was going after then, and that's how I started getting my clients. And so I was like, okay, like I'm just gonna keep cold messaging people, and I just did that. And literally from 14 and a half to 16, when I did my first six figures, all of my clients came through Facebook cold messaging. That was it.
mm.
Like that's where they came from. That's the only thing I did. And that's what led me to launching my first info product, which was the Cold Messaging Kings, which you guys can go pirate on Google right now. It's all over the place. There's plenty of people selling it, which is cool. Like I know I've made it if they're reselling my course.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, so that led me into info products after I'd actually done it. But that's how it started, was just Facebook cold messaging.
Cool.
So yeah.
And you were nicheless, or did you stick with
Yeah.
bouncy house
So
rentals?
very niche list, but I was going after like every new agency owner who gets excited, like I want to go after realtors because it's high ticket and like everyone just says it. So I was like, I'm going after realtors. And then the bouncy house was just like a random, I just reached out to them and got them. And so I went after like bouncy house is mainly like bouncy house companies or party
Wow.
rental companies for the like majority of the clients I had. So
Cool.
great niche, high ticket. It's usually in demand. Birthdays are happening a ton, and
Yeah.
it's pretty easy campaign to run. You just run a coupon to a chat bot, send to the website, pretty easy. It's still to this day, I know some people doing it, works just the same.
Wow, that's great. And so you ran like you said, I think your first six-figure year was like 2016, you said?
Yeah, so I would have just turned 16 a little after. And I'm 20 now, and I will be 21 in March. So I have the exact date somewhere in my Stripe account.
Hmm.
But I know I was like just turned 16 a little after that. So
Cool. Cool.
mhm.
Um, and you were running Facebook ads for them, right? That was the service.
Yeah, it was Facebook
Facebook, sorry.
ads to a
You just
chat
said
bot,
that.
and that's another thing I want to talk about too. And we'll talk about. And a lot of people are probably wondering how I did it or my secret, but a big thing was like timing. So
Mm,
back then too, a lot of people were teaching you run an ad to like a just a lead form.
yeah.
And back then they didn't have go high level for automation. So you literally could just run ads to lead form. Here's your spreadsheet, and clients were happy.
Yeah.
Like those were the days. It was easy. So
Yeah. The
I was
golden
like, you know
age.
what? Yeah, it was easy, right? They didn't know any different.
Yeah.
But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do chatbots because ManyChat just came out. And I had the angle, it's like the automated booking system, automated follow-up, whatever. So I just did ads to a chatbot. And then I started an agency called Genius Bots with a Z.com. And then I sold chatbots on a retainer or just like one-off. So
Mm.
that was another big thing that helped me get 6 figures was I was selling like a service that no one really was doing. So
Yeah.
you call that luck, I call it timing, and I think it's like a little bit of both.
Yeah, it's just unique. Like marketing is about different. And that was the same thing when my agency is almost exclusively chatbots as well. And like
Nice.
when we came out and we're like, landing pages suck, lead forms suck. And like they're like, yeah, you're right, they do
Yeah.
suck. And like just by nature of being
Yeah.
different than everybody else, it's easier to get the clients on board.
Yeah, it's literally timing. Like a lot of times, people think it's like their guarantee. They think it's their past experience. It's like no, like back, I had none of that when I started. None of that. All I did
Mm,
was I just timed it right. How did I get
yeah.
clients? Well, I didn't cold call. I cold message, and of course that's transition. But
Yeah.
I always preach, I'm like, it kind of comes down to timing the market right in both how you're acquiring clients and how you're getting them results.
Yeah. Very cool. Um, so you have your first 6 figure year, you're like, I'm selling an info product now. Do you, at this
Yeah.
point, are you still running the agency or are you just doing the cold messaging kings?
Yeah, so I ran an agency. That was like my big thing back then. I was like, I'm still running an agency.
Mm,
And I did it. And back then, like the info product, it wasn't really even like a company. It was literally you get a Google Sheet, 2-page Google Sheet, and an hour-long call with me for $497.
mm,
And then you get put into a messenger group chat. That was it. And
yeah.
these days that would not sell. Like I mean, maybe I've had some
I
people
don't know. If it was you, I think it'd sell.
could now because I've experienced, but like to a
Yeah.
kid who's like, in a basement, no. But the thing is, like, I don't know the exact numbers and how much I made. And when I say my numbers, like agency, I separate it from info product too.
Mm,
I don't know the exact numbers, but I know we had zero refunds. Everyone was happy. And so that was great. So I was doing that on the side, but I was
mm,
still running an agency so that I can continue to cold message and then teach my students.
nice,
So
nice.
I ran a local lead gen agency until I was about 18 years old. And like it was right before, that would have been like 2020. But I remember it
Mm,
was like COVID had just started and I switched over to info product, like funnels for info product people. So I only worked with 2 Comma Club members.
mm,
And it was like perfect timing because all the local businesses were like shutting down. And
mm,
then all the info product people were like pushing. And so again, I just timed it. And again, that was honestly luck, but
mm.
it was timing. And so we jumped
Yeah,
right into that. So it was a funnel agency. And so we transitioned to that instead of local lead gen.
cool. And just backtracking just a bit,
Yeah.
so from 14 to 18, like, did you have contractors running the ads at any point? Did you have full-time employees?
No, I did. It was all me. There was no,
Okay.
first time I built a team was 2020. And then until 2021, I had like actually had like contractors under me. But up
Mm,
until that point, I was very stubborn and just did it myself, which I think was fine for me then. Kept a lot
yeah.
more money, but it was all me.
Yeah, at your age, that's like,
Yeah, it's like I
yeah.
didn't want to. It didn't make sense. And I mean, management. I know I have leadership qualities, but in the setting of business, I still am working on that, and even had to last year with the
Mhm.
team I had because I had a team of 6, or I had a media buyer, a client success manager, a closer, 2 setters, and a VA.
Mm,
When we were doing done for you appointments for agencies, and like I shout them out because they went through a ton work having me as their boss. I feel like I did an okay job. I didn't do like a great job,
mm.
and I learned a lot. And so we pivoted from that. And I was like, I need to work on my leadership more. It's not fair to them. It's not fair for me. And so yeah, I'm that's still something I'm working on, and I'm glad I didn't do it at a younger age. It would have been a lot worse.
Yeah, it's it's like for anybody that's done the transition, you realize that like the hard skill of like making a many chat bot or like running a Facebook ad, completely different from leading a team. Like
Yes,
could not be any more different. And the team like soft skills of leadership and like team building are
Mhm.
they're so highly compensated because they're so difficult to develop.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So your what's your schedule look like from that 14 to 18?
Yeah.
You're homeschooled, right? If I
Yeah, so I
remember.
was homeschooled. I stopped doing my home or my schoolwork. It would have been 17 years old. Like I think I did like half a semester at 17. I would have been a junior at that point. And so
Hmm.
my junior year, I did like one semester. And it was funny because there's like when you're homeschooled, you can go to a co-op where it's like other homeschoolers.
Mm.
It's like school twice a week. And so my mom was like, okay, either you're doing online school or you can go have some friends and have social people, which I wanted, and go to a co-op. So I was paying for my own classes at this co-op so that I
Mm.
wouldn't be at home. So I was doing that, and then I was running my business. And I actually started my business while I was in that school. I remember like during class, I'd be watching like webinars and,
Mm.
opting in for all that stuff. And so I was still homeschooled then. And what's funny is I actually am a teacher at that co-op now, and I'm teaching
Nice.
this class there. So
Cool.
full circle, dropped out, came back, and now I'm teaching these kids. And I have 15 kids who are all entrepreneurial. They work so hard, and it is so cool to see.
Dude, that's really cool. I want to ask you more details about
Yeah.
that because I'd love I don't know, such a cool age to like
Mhm.
teach, and YouTube's fun, but like
Yeah.
it's cool to
Yeah.
see people like get it in the moment. Yeah.
It's crazy. Like it re-excites me about things that become so boring.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and mundane. So yeah, so my schedule, my goal is I had like a thing where I was like, okay, if I worked like 4 hours a day, I should be good. Like if I spent 4 hours like deep work or focus per day, I was pretty good, like intense work. And so I would do my homework. I'd wake up, I don't know, like 8. I kind of slept in 8 or 9-ish, go upstairs. We'd have family breakfast. I have 9 siblings or 8 siblings. We'd all sit there, have breakfast, do our
Mm.
Bible time, blah, blah, blah. I go into the basement. Then from like 10 to 12, I would do all my homework. I had 2 hours. I'm going to get all my homework done, school all the way, and then I'm going to focus on my business so I can start messaging people and getting clients. So did that from it would have been like from 1 to 4-ish or 12 to 4-ish, really dependent on it. And
Mm.
then from 4 to 6 or 4 to 8 or around there was like social time. So I'd go hang out with friends. I would, maybe hang out with my girlfriends at the time, which really affected my revenue and was a big mistake in high school. Don't do that, guys. Wait. I'm now happily engaged to someone who I've been friends with for 8 years. She's amazing and it's great. But
That's
back then,
awesome.
like waste of time.
Yeah.
So literally every time I started dating, you saw a dip in my Stripe account. Like and I show my students that I'm like, don't date in high school. I mean, you can. I'm just your teacher, but like, don't do that. Wait. So yeah, that happened. So I would social hour friends, whatever. I played baseball. I ran cross country. So at this time, I was doing that as well.
Yeah.
And also, I was working at an apple orchard, a movie theater, up
Whoa.
until 2020, right? So I was already making 6 figures. I was making more than my managers in my business, and I was still working a part-time job because I just really loved it. I was a social person.
Mm.
Uh, the movie theater, I love those people are awesome. I didn't take a single paycheck because my direct deposit got messed up and I just was too lazy to fix it. And I was making money, like I was fine.
Yeah.
I know it sounds like really cocky, but I was like, I was fine. Like I just really loved the people and I just loved it. I really enjoy it. It was super fun. And it was nice to like have a job where like someone was telling me what to do instead of me having to solve all the problems, as weird as that sounds.
Yeah.
But super relaxing. It's like, okay, end of the night, we're cleaning the movie theater. Here's the checklist, just clean it and you're good. I'm like, sick. This is easy.
Yeah.
Nothing. So I was working a movie theater job. I don't know what I was getting paid, terrible an hour. I got free movies. It was fun. And
Hmm.
then I was working at an apple orchard down the street that I started working at when I was 11 years old. And so I was doing that too. So that's what my schedule looked like.
So
And
you're like realistically 4 days, 4 hours a day on the business.
yeah, that's it. And then after work, I'd come home and then I would do tasks that didn't require too much of my attention or focus throughout the night. So that's when
Okay.
I'd watch courses. I would do little things like that didn't require me to do much thinking. And then I would stay up to like 1 or 2 a.m., which is really bad. And then I'd like order pizza because I couldn't drive until 17 and I would get fat and just eat in my basement and make money. So yeah, that's like word for word exactly what happened. So
So you'd
yeah,
work another like 2, 3, 4
yeah,
hours
yeah, literally
after.
like at
Okay.
night I'd stay up late. And it's funny, my fiance, she remembers because she was my friend back then. She's like, yeah, I would like wake up in the morning and you'd send me like super cringy Snapchats of you late at night working and like doing stupid stuff because you were exhausted. Like, and I was like, yeah, that is
That's
true.
so funny, dude.
So
It's cool because I think like teenage entrepreneur, I just like picture somebody that doesn't have a life, but you were
yeah.
like living and
Mhm.
having a ton of fun, like starting a business. So cool. Like, when are you gonna have less risk? Like, when are you gonna have, you
Yes.
had no expenses,
Yep.
likely. You're just like,
You're
whatever
vibing.
happens, happens. Like, if the client gets mad, like, Who really cares?
Yeah, I know that's why I tell my students in my homeschool class is like, guys, I was like, all right, raise your hand that if your business failed today, you would go homeless. I'm like, okay, no one's raising their hands. All right, raise your hand if like you would go hungry if your business fails and you don't make any money. Okay, no one's raising their hand. Who here would like their parents kick them out, get mad at them, like if their business fails? No one raised their hand. Okay, cool. So what excuse do you have? You have no excuse. The only excuse you have is fear of criticism, fear of failing, and all those
Mm,
things. And I was like, here's how to handle those fears, but who cares? Like now is the time to do this. And that's what I tell myself. I'd be like, man, I'm gonna start this business and go crazy because I'm not gonna be homeless. I'm not gonna go hungry, and my family's still gonna love me. And at the end of the
yeah.
day, that's what I cared about. I mean, and especially the food part, that's great. But another thing too, I want to note on, you mentioned how like, yeah, it was really social. And I feel like there are two types of entrepreneurs, and it's like the person who really cares about just like the number in their bank account, making more. Like they have this mindset where it's like, I'm gonna hustle and like Sam Ovens it out, make millions because like that's what excites them, and that's super cool. And they
Mhm.
do, and they make it really fast. And then there's other people like me who like try to do that because it looks cool and I do want to make money, but it never aligns with who I really am like inside me. And so I never hit the mark, and then I keep
Mm,
failing, quote unquote, and I never really grow. And so I had to realize like I'm not Sam Ovens, I'm not a Ravi, I'm not a whatever, like I'm not an Iman Gods, I'm not good at monk mode as much as I
yeah.
try to be. And so I was like, let me lean into my strengths. And I know that like if I have social aspects, if I can look forward to seeing my fiance at the end of the day, or like, doing that with her, I know like I'll be super excited the next day to wake up and do what I do. So I always encourage people and entrepreneurs, especially people watching this young, maybe trying to start, really get clear on like, okay, who are you? What are you capable of handling? Why are you doing this? Because you're not going to be like me. You're not going to be like Keaton. You're not going to be like Sam Owens. You're not going to be like any of these people, right? You're going to be like you. And so lean into that and take things, right? Take little things, but
Yeah.
it's sad because we still have people that get thrown into like, I need to be monk mode, I need to do this, I need to do this, but like they're not built for it, so they always miss the mark, they always beat themselves up, and they never win.
Yeah.
Where you work 4 hours a day maybe and get filled up from other things. And so the thing, like I probably would be making millions right now if I was like that, like without a doubt. Like I
Mhm.
should have already made multiple millions of dollars because people who were more focused and cared about the
Yeah.
money sold similar products to me and did it. So I know I could have. And I'm okay.
Mhm.
I'm fine with that. I don't beat myself up because I really love what I do. So I know it's a rant there, but I always like to throw that in there because it's a big part that people miss.
Oh, it's so important. And it's never discussed. Like they're not
Mm-hmm.
going to put that in a course like you
Nah,
would, but
hustle
Sam Evans
mindset.
isn't going to put that in a course.
Yeah. It's not going to work because you have to think about it. It's like that was the reason the first module is all about mindset is you're probably trying to start a business. You have a lot of doubt, fear, and so they have to convince you you're going to make it. If you just hustle, work hard so that you don't refund on their course, which is great. It's helped me. A lot of courses have helped me, but again, you got to look past that in today's age and like really look at yourself and what you want to do.
Yeah, that's cool. And it's a very, I think recognizing how privileged of a place that is in the first
Mhm.
place. Like there's I always say you'll never have less risk than today. Like
Mhm.
imagine like there's people maybe listening to this with kids, with a mortgage,
Yes.
with
Yeah.
debt, with like all of that. And they do have to go monk mode to like make something work if they're going to quit
Yeah.
their job because they got obligations. So if you have the privilege of like being able to sit there and think like what makes me happy, what gets me fired up, like
Mhm.
you're already in the top 1% of like happiness in the world.
Yes.
So like
Yeah.
more money, it will increase your happiness to a degree, but it's not going to do it as much as like waking up and doing something you love every day.
Exactly. Yeah. Couldn't agree more.
That's cool. So let's say you're 18, you decide to shut down the lead gen agency and go
Yeah.
into the funnel one. Walk me through the thinking behind that. Like,
Yeah.
were you like, oh, this isn't like, is the model's broken or there's just more
Uh-huh.
money over here? What?
Yeah, so it came down to again looking at myself and being like, man, I do not like being an ads manager. I'm not a metric person.
Hmm.
I'm not a conversion person. Like I'm not performance based. And I was like, I just do not enjoy this that much. And then I looked
Hmm.
at, okay, what am I good at? What do I like to do? And at the time, I was consistently posting like 2 to 3 times per day on my Facebook timeline, either teaching, giving value, or just sharing. And
Hmm.
I realized I really enjoy like writing. Like I really enjoy it, even though I failed my writing class. completely. I really loved writing. I loved
Mm,
the whole thing of writing on my funnels. I loved writing the ads for my clients. And so again, a little self-awareness and being like, okay, what do I want to do? I was like, I really enjoy writing. And at the time, I also like I'd just done, six figures at 16. That's crazy. And I continue to stay around like, 150 to 200, maybe leading up to being 18. So that's
mm,
pretty good. And I mean, I didn't have to go to college, so my motivation of not taking ACT test was gone.
mm,
Well, like I made okay money. I was inspired to make millions. So I was also like in that place of like, okay, I really am starting to stall here and I have to turn it around. And so that's when I was like, okay, I really love writing. Can I be a copywriter? And so I don't know how I thought of being a copywriter. I know people have done it. I don't know the whole progression of that, but I was like, let me just write copy. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to start a copywriting agency, even though it's me right now. And then maybe I'll move into something else in the future. And the way I got my first gig was pretty crazy. And had that first client has helped me in more ways than I can imagine in like my
mm.
whole journey. And that client was actually Dan Henry, if you know him.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, and when I say client, meaning like I started writing for him for free. And I worked for him in a way and with him because I was calling myself an agency, but not gonna sit here and pretend like, yeah, I like emailed him and now he's my client
Close
and he
Dan
like owes,
Henry.
yeah, like no, I was writing for him for free at first, but who cares? Like I was his copywriter and his only copywriter at the time, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Um, and the way I got that was through cold messaging, like literally, but it was on
No
Instagram.
way.
So he had posted on his story, like, yeah, I'm looking to get a copywriter maybe. We're releasing a podcast soon. I need to send emails, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, cool. And he's like, someone sent me a message and like, tell me why you should be my copywriter. And I was like, okay, cool. So I sat down, I was just laying in my bed, opened up Instagram, and I was like, okay, Dan has a really like dark humor. He's pretty crude. He's
Mm,
funny. He's real. I got to go with that language. So I just knew like that's how he talks and how he acts. Um, and I'd been consuming his content for years, which also helped. And so what I did is when I reached out to him, I sent a bunch of fire emojis, and then it said penis, penis, penis. Um, yeah, and I'm sorry for all my homeschooled Christian people watching this. I'm sorry. I know I said penis. I said it. It got me a client, right? And it said penis, penis, penis. And this next part, my mom's probably gonna kill me for saying. She always, whenever I say little things like this in interviews, she's like, "Why do you say that, Joshua?" So I'm sorry. This is old me. I'm a changed man. But I said penis. If you open this, you may be gay. That's it. All right. I said it. I said it to Dan Henry. He's a crude guy. It was all in humor, all jokes, whatever. Right. And that's fine, whatever. So I said that. That was my message. And then I explained to him, I was like, just kidding. My name's Josh Gavin. I'm a copywriter. Here's what I've done. I've posted on Facebook for the last two to three times a day for the last, 3 or 4 years. I've launched my own info products. Here's the stats, blah, blah, blah. I'd love to write for you. I pay for your courses. I know your content. And I said something along the lines of that. And that message still exists. I could find it. And he was like, cool, sounds good. Like, when can we hop on a call? Or he said, no, he said, write a test email. So he said, write a test email. Here's a podcast, write an email promoting it. So I spent like the next 2 or 3 days listening to his podcast and coming up with like a promotional email for it.
Mm.
Sent it to him. He said my spelling sucked, but everything else looked good. And I started writing his podcast emails. I did a webinar sequence as well for him, which is cool. And then from
Very
there,
cool.
it launched me. Because if I can say I wrote for Dan Henry, even though it's for free, like, yeah, so it just helped. And so shout out Dan, appreciate it, man. It was great. I think I ended up, sadly though, it got to my head and I started working with a bunch of other people. And then he was like, okay, if you're just gonna like leverage me and not care about my projects, and like I think it just like slowly just fizzled out. So yeah, I'm not gonna pretend like it ended the best, but it was just I got cocky and I was like, you know what? I'm working for all these other people and I'm getting paid. So, but if he was paying me more, that I probably would have stayed. But
Yeah, yeah.
how do you move from free to pay? Like he didn't do anything wrong. It was all me. But hey, I learned, give him a lot of credit and it was a good time.
Yeah, that's great. So you're like, hey, I'm Dan Henry's copywriter, and you're
Yeah.
cold messaging other two Comma Club people on Facebook to get.
Yeah. So I did that. And then I also started a show called like, what did I call it? I don't even know if I called it anything, just like 7-figure interviews or something. And I would interview two Common Club members because at the time I had like a decent following of like agency owners and info product people because I had my own stuff, right? So
Mhm.
I was like, okay, let me use this to my advantage. And I said, hey, I'm going to go interview these people. So I started using a Facebook group and I would interview like I did Blake Newbar, Iman Gadzhi, Jordan, all the agency gurus, a bunch of the info product people. We interviewed Dan Henner, all those people, right? And I interviewed them. And then at the end of the interview, they would usually ask, like, so what are you doing? What are you like? What's the goal? What are you focusing on? Or it would come
Mm,
up. And I'd say, oh, I'm a funnel designer. I'm a funnel or a copywriter. And I only work with 2 Comma Club members. And like, oh, who have you worked for? Well, I wrote for Dan Henry for a little bit. Da, 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 da. And what would happen is either they would be interested in a project or they would know someone who would be. And
nice.
then, of course, through just profile funnels, as we've talked about before, and just content, I started being known as the person who wrote copy or built funnels.
Mm.
And my whole thing was like sexy funnels that sell. And I would go under posts and click funnels. This is another thing I'd say. My old self, mom, don't freak out, but I'd comment on their posts and I'd say, oh, this sounds pretty bad. I don't okay. So I would say like I'd say like our copies, like our funnels are so sexy that even Pornhub considers us competition. So very crude, again, bad. Don't condone it. Homeschool moms watching this. We don't condone this as bad. It's not how I talk. This is old me, all right? I'll see you later. And that's what I'd say because it's just the market and it worked. And so you go in ClickFunnels, everyone's seeing this and it's like getting engagement. People are freaking out. They love it. It's
Mm,
funny. And so that's how I started getting clients. And you get one, you get another, it's just in that space. It's like, you can't really reach out to someone and be like, hey, do you want a funnel? You have to wait till someone's like, oh my gosh, I need a funnel. And they'll
mm.
usually like pick the best person they see first. So again, a lot of timing with that, but that's how I started getting clients was through those avenues.
And if someone had posted in, I mean, people posting in the ClickFunnels Facebook group, like, were they 2 Comma Club members, or did you eventually start working
Even
with
if they
people that
weren't,
weren't?
like they were just like sometimes people be like interested in work and they weren't a 2 Comma Club member, but people would like see my name and then like if they're searching the group, people just refer me. Um, and so at eventually after like a year of only working with, or not a year, probably like 6 months maybe of working with just 2 Comma Club members, I
Mhm.
started taking on people who weren't at 2 Comma Clubs, but had a good product. So I was like more so qualifying them on their product.
Oh, okay.
And we actually took 2 clients to a 2 Comma Club through our funnels and our copy, which was super cool as well. So
Very
one
cool.
guy, piano for producers, he sold MIDI packs. We built his funnel and wrote his copy. And then Raymond Popal, I think how you pronounce it, he did e-commerce coaching and we built
Mm,
his funnel and that got to 2 Comma Clubs. And we have another one that's approaching for another client. So yeah, then I started working with people who weren't there. Then my message was like, I'll help you get there. So it
cool.
transitioned.
And what, if you can share, what were you charging?
Um, Not enough. For a funnel at this. So my first funnel I ever sold. Okay, so this is the difference. So I did copy, right? I did copy, and then I transitioned into also doing funnel design.
Mm,
And I learned funnel design from a guy named Gustin Sun. He's very well known now. He works for ClickFunnels. He's actually like just got second place in the affiliate competition right now. Really
nice.
cool. So shout out him. He taught me how to design funnels, and so I was like, I do copy and funnels. And so the first funnel I sold was to someone who wasn't in the 2 Comma Club, and that was actually the first funnel that hit a million, like that I ever built hit a million.
Nice.
And I sold it for $1,500, no equity, nothing. And I'm sitting there seeing it just $400,000, $800,000, just going up and up and up in the ClickFunnels stats, like to 4 million. And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, this is cool. I know. And I was like, this will pay off later, but are you kidding me? Like I put in the funnel, same copy till date. They switched up some little things on it. Same copy, still running. I see it in my feed all the time. And I click on it.
Wow.
I'm just like, this is cool, but I'm also pissed off because like, and so I'm like, you know what? So leverage, it helped me stay like I built the funnel into the million,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
But 1,500. And then
Wow.
it got all the way up to like 5K for just one page with
Mm,
copy. So 5K. And then there was like bundle deals where I was charging 500 per email. So if someone wanted like an 80 email sequence, made high ticket on that as well too. So
cool.
that's what
Cool.
pricing looked like.
Um, and you, well, just real quick,
Mhm.
what's what did what are the principles of funnel design that somebody listening to this, like if you could give the top 3 or 5 tips?
So number one, hire a designer, and just kidding. So like for me, I try to do design and I did it. I used a lot of templates to help me.
Yeah.
And like modeled other funnels that did well. So funnel hack, model, don't copy. But I was really strong with the copy. I just want to include design as a way to help it. So,
Mm.
I mean, talking design, that's a whole thing on its own. But I eventually just hired a designer and then I did the copy. But when it
Okay.
comes to the copy on the funnel, the biggest thing I would even, the question I always ask is like, why does this product even deserve to exist? And then how can I make that clear on this page? Like that's my mindset.
Mm.
A lot of
That's really good.
times, a lot of times people come in and they lot the when I'm working with these people who have their product I'm trying to help sell, they of course think their product's the best in the world. They are not their worst critic. They are like, I have the best product in the world. I have the best testimonials. I have the most videos in this course. I have the most experience. And they think that's why someone's going to buy. Right. And so on the call, they think that's they're like, yeah, just slap some testimonials on there, state my guarantee, my Alex Ramosi guarantee, and we'll be fine. I'm like, nah, like that, no one's gonna care. No one's gonna care to buy this. And so we sit down, like, why does this product deserve to exist? Like, what makes it different? And as cheesy as that sounds, like, what makes this different? Is it timed well in the marketplace? Meaning, like, imagine if I launched a cold calling course right now in a market where we're using all these other avenues to get clients. Like, chances are it probably wouldn't do as well, but it could if maybe I timed it and said like, hey guys, 5 years ago, cold calling was working amazing. And then people started getting lazy, hung up on it, and they moved to cold email, cold messaging. And they started doing that. But here's the thing. Well, everyone else left cold calling. What does that mean? Well, more opportunities for people like you to get back into it. And
Mm.
then so like that's how I would reframe it. So what am I doing there? Timing. I'm timing it. I'm timing the marketplace well. And so next thing would be timing the messaging right, and not just like talking about what's included in your guarantee and your experience and some like rags richest story. Like who cares about that right now? So that's what I'd say is like, okay, why does this product deserve to exist? How can I time it well in the marketplace? And then, I mean, offer wise, include stuff that would like solve a client's like future problem. Like, I'm trying to think of a good example for this, but oh, for like solar, we did a funnel for like a solar agency for all the agency owners out there. And this stuff it's being done all over now, but we'd be like, hey, like we're gonna get you like leads, right? We're gonna get you the leads, we're gonna run the ads, get the leads. And then on top of that, after we get you the leads, we're gonna have an automated process that's gonna book them to your calendar, but you're not going to take the calls because we have an ISA who's going to call them for you, and then they're going to qualify them, and then push them over to you. So the reason why offers like that work so well is because I'm solving the first problem of leads. So I'm solving the next problem of like CRM or automation. I'm solving the next problem of okay, you don't have to call them; we'll call them for you. So when I look at my offer, I'm like, okay, how can I solve a future problem? Even it comes down to like the littlest things because you want to remove those objections.
Mm.
And limiting beliefs. Like add things that help them believe that it will work in general, it'll work for them, and that they have enough resources. Perfect webinar. Russell Brunson invented it, does it to this day. So those are the couple things I'd say. Again, going back is just why does it deserve to exist, the timing, and then solve your client's future problems in your offer.
Very
Like
cool.
solve the problems that your offer creates once they pay for it.
Where, I was gonna ask, where did you learn all this? But it's
Yeah, I
probably
mean,
too many different places.
I launched 42 offers in the last 5 years, and I did it for a lot of people. And I'm obsessed with studying it. Like I like every ad I see. I read every funnel, and then also I actually don't study the internet marketing space. I study the direct to consumer space,
Mm.
and that's where I learn my stuff. They're way far ahead of us. They are constantly evolving. They have to. They sell lower ticket product, and very broad with their products. And it can be as simple as like a t-shirt. Like, how do you sell a t-shirt? How do you get someone to believe to buy a t-shirt when you can get a t-shirt at Walmart? So the direct to consumer market, and this is something I'm going to start preaching more and more. They're far ahead of us. They've faced problems that like we're just coming to learning how to solve. And
Mm.
so I listen to podcasts with people who have built and sold brands. I study e-commerce websites, their email sequences, their lead forms, everything like that. Because the person, your mentor, and people in this space, sometimes they're just doing the same thing that someone else taught them a couple of years ago, and they don't have to evolve because they don't need to. Nothing's wrong with that. It works. The stuff works, but I like to stay ahead, and so I only study the direct to consumer space.
Got it. Very cool. And if you could go three courses that you've taken or three mentors that you've hired in the last since your beginning of your career, who would you say had the most impact?
Um, so I would say First would be Rob Quinn.
Mm,
I hired him in 2021 July, I think, or it was, yeah, 2021 July, like July 8th. I literally remember the exact day. It was super cool. That was when I was starting to build my team, and he had a course on like building a sales team. And I paid for the program, and I just happened to be going down to Kansas City for like a church thing. And I just joined the program, and I got there and I told him, I was like, yo, I just got into KC. I heard you lived here. It's super cool. Not even thinking anything different. And he was like, yo, man, come over. I'd love to show you my place. We'll walk around the city, and like, you
mm,
just signed on, let's celebrate. And I was like, holy crap, like this is cool. And at this point, I'd already interviewed him on our interview show I talked about before. And so we had some sort of relationship, but nothing deeper than that. And so
yeah,
he
yeah.
invited me over. He lives in the Two Lights in KC. It's beautiful, for like $5,000, $8,000 a month apartment.
Mm,
It's so pretty. Brought me in, showed me the whole place, walked around the city, just talked, gave me advice, for free, just like that. I know I paid him, but like that wasn't
yeah,
included. And
yeah.
so I learned so much in that moment, and I also saw like what it looked like to have a mentor who would just like be willing to give everything away and just like see what a true leader looked like. So he really helped me grow in my leadership,
Mm,
not even just like little strategies. So that was huge. And then the next one I would have to throw out there would be Chris Stapleton and Landon Stewart at Clients and Community.
mm,
They I joined their program. It was one of the first. It was the first high ticket program I ever paid for, to be honest, like $6,800 plus.
mm,
And their content stuff is great, but it was more so just like their story, their inspiration, their support that really pushed me forward.
mm.
And I feel like I got community from them, and like a good encouragement. I also got to speak on their stage at their mastermind eventually, like a year later. So they
Cool.
also like gave me a platform. So I would have to throw those two out there. And then Iman Gadzhi, because he gave me the OG like cringy entrepreneurship, like motivations and desires, which led me to maturing in that. So we got to throw
Yeah,
them in
yeah.
there for sure.
It's so funny. Like it's always the first course that's the most
Hmm.
important, even if the
Yep.
first one I bought was complete garbage, like
Hmm.
wasn't even finished. Like I don't know, tons of Travis
Yeah.
Stevenson. Did you ever
Oh,
you know
yeah.
him?
Name sounds so familiar. Yeah. If I looked him
He
up,
was
I'd be like,
selling like ManyChat, but like
yep.
50 times worse than ManyChat.
Wait, what was this thing called? That was, I think,
Chatmatic.
wait, what's it again?
Chatmatic.
Yes, Chavi. Yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole little thing.
So he's selling that with the course, like
Holy
1,500
crap.
bucks is like the most I'd ever paid for anything, right?
Yep.
It felt like this huge leap. And like I log into the course and there's literally two videos.
You're like, bro.
I was like,
Yeah,
and
back then
everything
those.
else was coming soon. And then I like visited the next week and it was still coming soon. I was like, oh man, I think I might have wasted some money here. But it
That's
was
the
the
course.
most important money I ever spent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it got you started, and here you are
Yeah.
today. So yeah, I would say those are the people for sure.
Yeah. Cool. That's good to hear. It's good to hear.
Mhm.
Um, okay, so you are not running that agency anymore, the funnel
Yep,
design agency.
yep.
What happened and what are you
Yeah.
doing now?
So um, this is, yeah. So I remember it's this. I love these questions. This is like making me relive my whole story. I'm like, okay, this
Mm,
has happened. So I did my funnel agency, did that for a while, and then I started to realize like, oh, funnel design is like what is like, it's not like it's a service. It's like a plumber, where it's like a plumber can't just go to a house and be like, hey, can I fix your toilet? And like, oh, my toilet's not broken, I'm not going to pay you. Whereas
mm,
like with a plumber, if their toilet's broken, like they're clicking on that first ad word, they're like calling that plumber up, they are out there as soon as possible. So that's funnel design, that's funnel, that's copy, that's things like that. Where like lead gen, though, it's like we always need more leads. Every market gets to a point where the problem is not enough leads. Every single
mm,
anything, the whole issue comes down to I don't have enough leads or attention. So that's why, as an agency owner, it's easier to sell that. And so I was sitting there, I was like, okay, I've built funnels, we've helped people make a lot of money, but like I'm still, project flow is weak. Like it would be one or two deals a month, which yeah, you'd be making like 10K, but like scaling that kind of offer is very hard. And then it's like
yeah.
it's tricky. And so I was like, crap, how can I get more recurring and like consistent income into it? And then I looked and I was like, oh, I still have my agency community, because I was still like teaching my agency community what I'd been doing. Had a
Mm,
big group of like at the time 3,600 people maybe, and like a decent following on Facebook. And I was like, okay, I was like, I could sell, like, how can I bring what I've done to like this marketplace, and knowing like, yeah, I'd be able to make money, not easy money, but like I would be able to, it'd be a lot easier than starting brand new. Um,
mm,
and going after a local business. And I experienced building funnels and stuff. So I got the idea right before, when was, I forgot the exact date. Okay, so I started my funnel agency 2020, like start of COVID, like right before, like January, like literally to start, I think is when that happened. And then we're finishing up the year and I was getting to 2021. And from that point, I was starting to think that like, oh, I need to get a new service in here. So start of 2021, I launched a done for you appointments for agencies.
Mm.
And there was like, I think Joel Kaplan was the only other person doing it for people. And so like the idea of like someone doing done for you appointments was like known to the marketplace, which
Mm.
was good. Again, that's why I timed it that way, because I could, instead of coming out fresh and being like, hey, we'll book you done for your appointments, and then people being like, how, why, like, how does this work? I was like, here, I came out to like, okay, I've seen this type of offer. And then they were like, what makes you different? And then I actually had a good reason for what made us different.
Mm.
And so I started selling that at $1,000 a month, which was like, it hits the ego going from 5K funnels to $1,000 a month, but I had no experience, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So we started selling that. We got a couple clients in, and then I had my friend Nicholas Goldberg. He was helping me run the ads, because I had no ads. So he was doing the ads. I paid him, I think he got half of that, 1,000 a month, and then we just split it.
Mm-hmm.
And I basically had him SOP himself out of the company.
Mm.
And we'd always joke about that, because like he knew he wouldn't do it forever. He was just helping out, and so he created the SOPs to then move out of the company. And then I was able to bring someone else in to do it. So we did that for a while. We did that for the rest of 2021. That's where it got to the point where I had a full sales team. It was all automated. It was a crazy feeling. Like there were days where I would like make $8,300 and not be on the phone. Like I was just
Mm.
like not on the phone, nothing. Didn't set, wasn't a messenger. It was like a whole team was doing it for me
Yeah.
on commission, which was sick. And then the fulfillment was like decently automated, where I was just handling some copy. So it looked really pretty from the outside. And again, I kind of got caught up in the idea due to the people around me of like, oh, have a team. Yeah, just automated, build a setter team, a sales team. You won't have to do anything. And so I kind of like lived on a high horse through that time. I was in another relationship. Again, revenue goes down. You spend more, it's just not it. And so I built up really big, like big team, but then revenue started going down because I wasn't like driving the needle enough, because I essentially was driving the revenue. I was the face, I was the brand. So when I stopped posting, doing a ton of stuff, or like caring, then revenue started going down, but my expenses are still really high. And so it got to the point where it was like so bad, where I was like, hey guys, like we have to pause this company, where like they're all contractors. So they had other gigs going on, which was good. So no one was left like in the dust, luckily.
Mm.
But I had to like stop paying him, had to stop paying the team, let go of my awesome closer, Shannon, who'd done $250,000 cash collected that year. I had to let go of my setters. One of my setters was my brother at the time. That was tricky. Don't hire family. Not that anything against him. It's just like when you get in that situation, it gets awkward, right?
Yeah, yeah.
We had to let go of our client success, who was also my friend. Luckily, that ended fine. I don't know why I was hiring friends. And then I had a VA who I kept on a little longer, and we slowly just started offboarding clients and shifting. And so there was end of last year in October, being like, frick, like I need to restart. Like I have the choice. I was in the crossroads. Like I either give up and I just like, I don't know, go work for a company, just go take the skills I have and go work for someone else, or like, I'm going to give this one more shot. And so that was where I was at. And it was October. I went to a clients and community event in Arizona,
Mm-hmm.
and I had this big epiphany of my skill set of creating offers, and that kind of being like my skill set. Cause I was like, what do I do? Like, what am I good at? And I was like, there's so many things I love to do, and I keep pivoting a ton. I want to stick to one thing, but how do I fit that into a box? And I
Mm.
realized like I'm just really good at like coming up with offers. Like I don't, again, not to sound cocky, but just after doing so many, you
Yeah.
develop that kind of skill. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go into offer creation. Like that's gonna be my whole thing. And I'm gonna do consulting for other companies. I'm gonna come up with like an info product on the front end to help people. And so that was kind of like my Hail Mary, which got me out of the slump and back into the whole grind of it all. And that's kind of where I've gotten to now again. And there have been ups and downs since that October till now. But I feel like I'm definitely a lot more secure and handle a lot of those mindset issues I had. to then like humble myself and get clear on what I want to do, and then get out of like the fear and into just like the faith of like, okay, looking back on this story, if I've done it then, I can do it now. And that's why this is
Mm.
really cool, these questions. I haven't like really even like walked through the whole process in my mind in a while. So yeah, now we're here. And like it was crazy to think like I went through all that. And again, at the time, I went through 2 different breakups. I was, trying to, my family, like I was sometimes the one who was paying rent, right? I had that stress. I
Mm.
had things going on. Again, just like spiritually trying to go through, working through pornography, which doesn't help at all, right?
Mm.
Lust, all those things at the same time. And then also trying to play a front to all my followers in the agency community, being like, I'm this agency owner, whatever. And behind the scenes, everything's crumbling. So it's like crazy that that's what I went through. But here we are today. And even, man, it was last month or start this month, I made a post on my timeline, and I again recently had gotten to the point where I was debating just like going into like a corporate job because I was fearing like, man, revenue's going like this. I'm getting married next year. I don't want to do that to my fiance, my wife. Like, I just don't want to risk that. And I was even telling her, I was like, hey, like I might go into this, and just like talking to her. And she's like, yeah, like she wasn't saying like do it yes or no, but she was kind of like, interesting. Like that's not like the Josh I know.
Mm.
And then I was watching, I know it's a long rant here, but I was watching the presentation Russell did at Funnel Hacker live, and he was talking about the book Outwitting the Devil. And he talked
Mm.
about the difference between someone who's a drifter and someone who's driven, right? And
Mm.
the devil tries to get us to drift and not go anywhere in life by giving us fear of criticism, fear of failure, fear of ill health, all those things, right? And then the person who's driven doesn't lean into that fear, and he keeps pushing on. He stays focused on one outcome, one goal, and no matter what, he gets there. And it was a question of like, are you driven? Or are you drifting? And I looked at my life and I was like, man, like I could try to blame all these other things and the market and the situation, but at the end of the day, I was drifting. I wasn't focused on one goal. I wasn't set on one thing. I let fear get the best of me. And I made the decision where I was like, nope, we're not doing this. Like I don't know how this is gonna work. I'm doing one more hurrah. We're gonna get back in this. I took out a business loan, and I was like, we got one more hurrah. Let's launch another offer. Let's get back into this. And threw another Hail Mary, and we are here today. We're good. We have our new company that is launched that I'm excited about. And I did it again. We made it out of the hole again. And the whole goal is like not to like get good at getting out of holes. It's to be good at like staying out of them
Mm.
forever and never getting into them. And so
Yeah.
that's the whole goal right now. And it's funny because like subconsciously, I feel those fears come back. Like as soon as I launch an offer, I get those doubts like, oh no, this is going to work. I'm gonna have to change it up. I need to switch it up. But I'm like, no, that's fear based on my past circumstances. I'm sticking to this one thing. I don't care what happens. Like we're going after it. And it's been great. And it's hard and it's like tricky, building back up again. But
Yeah.
we're doing it. So that's what that whole transition looked like.
Wow. Dude, I appreciate the honesty. I think it's really important for people to see what it's really like.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's hard too because a lot of people they do have to hide behind their brand. Even I did that. Like I'm admitting like I had to do that, but it doesn't. It's just it's hard. Like it's hard for me to even achieve my goals if I'm doing that. Although it could help me make more money, it could only hurt. So
Yeah.
uh, yeah, this is the real life. Like this is what and I'm sure you've dealt with the same issues. You've dealt with things similar in your business. Like we can't all sit here and pretend like it's perfect. And so I hope that people can be more real, as cheesy as it sounds, but it's just the
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me, looking back, like, was transitioning to something else besides the local lead gen agency the right move?
For me, yes. Well, actually, I would say, would I do it again? Maybe, because what I've been able to do for other people and like being able to build $1 million offers and speak on stages and have
Yeah.
students and like, we have a student in one of our info products who gave us like he paid his last like $400, which I would never advise. If I would have known that, I wouldn't have let him pay for it.
Yeah.
He was last $400, joined the program, closed a couple of clients, and was able to marry his fiance that year. And I was
Mm.
invited to the wedding. I didn't have a passport, so I couldn't go. I was in Canada. But like it was so like I love that I was able to do that. But I'm also like, man, I should have just kept my head down. I should have scaled that one offer to my first million and
Hmm.
just stuck it out, especially in that day and age where like there wasn't all that competition. Like that was a prime time of agency. I got in at like the best time. I could have taken over a niche like
Hmm.
easy, right? Which would have allowed me to do other things. So going back, man, I mean, sure, if I didn't know that I was could have achieved all these other things, I probably would have stuck to it and said, keep going, stick on that one thing
Got
until
it. Stick at the funnel
yeah,
design agency.
yeah, literally.
Yeah.
I would have because I mean my agency didn't fail. I fired my clients. So anytime I pivoted my companies, it's not because the company failed. It's because I like
Yeah.
let go of clients because I didn't want to do it anymore. Like that's so stupid. Like I'm
Yeah.
literally like no, I did. I remember I did offer. We did like um we were doing done for your appointments. And I made like 12K, $12,300 in like one day, and I was doing done for your appointments. I was three clients with like, or I was like yeah whatever. And so we did that. And then I was like, a couple weeks later, I was like, man, I just don't really enjoy doing this. I want to switch it up. And I refunded all of them and moved on to something else. Like, how stupid is that? But in my mind, I'm like, this would be better. Like, it's stupid. My friends would like be like, what are you doing? So yeah, I would have stuck to one thing and just kept going.
Cool. Yeah, it's good to hear. Like, I think from an outsider perspective, like Josh and I are like this is the first time we've ever spoken
Yeah.
together on a Zoom call, but like I've watched him, and it's easy to look at you and be like, oh, all of these were like deliberate moves that were like he's doing the right thing, like he knows what he's doing. And to hear your side where it's just like, oh, I didn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah. Stupid.
Luckily you're, 19, 20 at the time, so it doesn't,
Exactly.
I think it's so cool because all of the failures and all of the, decisions you've made that maybe you would look back and be like, that probably wasn't the right decision. Like you've just made them earlier. And like that's the mindset. This is the fear of failure you're talking about that like if we get over, we're good. Like
Yeah.
if everybody could make as many mistakes as you had by your age,
Mhm.
in business, like we'd have a bunch of business savants like walking the earth, because that's all
Yeah,
we
for
need to
real.
grow is
Yeah.
failure.
Yeah. And now it's getting to the place where I'm at the age where it's like, okay, I mean, and another goal I had throughout running my business as I got older was I wanted to get married young. Like I knew I wanted to share my life with somebody. I want to get
Mm,
married at 21. My friends would be like, you're crazy. That's wishful thinking. And I would sit there like, no, I'm getting married at 21. I don't know to who. It's gonna be the right person and whatever. And I went through other relationships and I quickly found, okay, they aren't the right ones, whatever. But I stayed focused to who I was, what I was doing. Um, and now it's like as of what like last year I looked at my best friend's eyes, realized, oh my gosh, I love this girl, and here we are now engaged and now I'm getting married. And so there is more pressure, and so I'm thankful I went through all these problems back then because now I'm in the place where it's like, okay, one, I know how to solve problems, but I'm like, okay, I got to take this serious. Like it's not just me supporting my own things anymore. It's like I have somebody who is looking at me and saying like, I trust you to be my husband, which is
yeah.
more than just like a relationship. That's like that's finances, that's emotionally, that's spiritually, and
Mm,
that's a freaky thing. And it's easy for me to sometimes push it off and be like, don't think about it too much. But I like thinking about it too because it really forces me to be like, oh my gosh, like this, I have to take this serious. I have to think long term. I can't be like being
yeah.
stupid. Health wise, like I want to live a long life with this girl. I want to
Hmm.
be healthier. I want to save more money. I want to make more money. All those things. And so yeah, it's a very unique position. But now it's like as of recent, I'm like, holy crap, like this is it's not all fun and games. I can't just go be stupid and switch up a ton. I have to stick to one thing and grow it and see the fruits of my labor. So yeah, if you're young, you're watching this, like that's why at your age, this is the time to grow. Now is the time to build and do this because you don't have um kids, a wife, which yes, they deserve. That's good to have you. They deserve your attention, your focus, your support. That's why you have them. But right now you don't. So you don't make excuses. Like now is the time.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, just the sooner, like just get started. Like
Yeah.
fail as fast as you can. I told a student the other day, like get a no. Like I want you to get somebody to tell you no this week. That's a
Yes.
win. And
Yeah.
if you can do that, you can get someone to say yes eventually.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I love that. I told my business students, I was like, hey, the first one to fail, start a business and fail at a business gets an A. I was like, I'm not going to do tests in this class. There will be
Mm,
assignments, but I'm like, whoever starts a business and it fails, it like explodes somehow. I was like, I don't know how it's going to happen, but if it does, you'll get an A. And if your business succeeds, you'll also get an A because good job. So I'm like, you can't lose in
Mhm.
this class. And they're like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. I was like,
Yeah, the only
go
way
at
you
it.
fail is if you don't try. Yeah,
Exactly.
very
Exactly.
cool. Very cool. So, talk to me about like at, 14, 15, 16-year old, like, did you have any like personal finance wherewithal throughout this period? And like, have you stacked cash, or has it been just like
Oh, nope,
spend it?
literally, it's gone. I'm just serious. Like, is there none at all? I didn't even know how taxes work until like after I make six figures. I was like, what is taxing? What do they tax? Like, what does that count? Like when I buy stuff, or literally no idea. Did not save, had no, I mean, and also it's like I came from a family where like my parents didn't really either, and not to blame
Mm,
them, but like it's at that point I then have to make the choice to do it myself. And
yeah.
even now, it's like just now recently I hired, I mean, as of like start of this year, I hired a really good bookkeeper, a really good fractional CFO. I'm paying myself, so I have to stick to a strict, budget. And I'm trying to save more. And I'm also like, I understand how this works because a lot of people think it's like if you have a business, you're making $10,000 a month, people think that's how much you take home, right? And they also think like, okay, I know there's expenses, but maybe I'm taking 8,000 home. I'm like, yeah, but also it's like taxes. And then look, if you talk to any smart bookkeeper or fractional CFO, they're going to be like, you're not paying yourself $10,000 a month until you're making 30,
Yeah.
right? That's literally what my person, like, you're not paying yourself 10 until you're at 30. Like that's the best thing to do. Or maybe even 40. Like that's where it
Mhm.
makes sense.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. Like, okay. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, even now I'm just getting good at it. I mean, this last year, we are operating at like a 56% profit margin
Mm,
before I paid myself. Now, where I messed up this last year is I wasn't an S corp, and I wasn't really being clear on how much I was paying myself. And so, I mean, after factoring how much I pay myself, it maybe is around like 20%. Maybe I think around, we're estimating I paid myself 30 to 40% out of that to me is what I transferred over to my account. And so I was not good at finances. We're still getting good at it. And today, even I'm sitting down with my fiance and I was like, hey, like I want to be open with my finances with you. I want you to know like what debt I have, how much I'm making. We're going to go through my profit and loss. Like I want her to be in on it because I feel like it's going to hold me accountable. And I don't want to get into marriage and be bad at finances and just be like, hey, honey, don't worry about it. I will handle it. But then behind closed doors, I'm not. And then I'm
mm,
like struggling. And then I'm trying, like, it's literally straight up lying to your spouse at that point. And so I'm trying to
yeah.
get good at it. And it's nice because I have a motivation of doing it for a beautiful girl who I love and want to do it for. And it's just going to benefit me. So yeah, the answer is no, do not stock up cash, do not invest, only invest in myself. If you call it that, courses, mentorships,
Yeah.
and no, it's gone. There's nothing. I mean, it's like literally like I don't know what thing
I
I
love it,
invest
man.
other than my own experience, but I have the knowledge, I guess, if that counts.
No, it totally does. I love it. It's just so, I don't know, man. It's like so, your story is like reckless and real, and like it's just more what the world needs. Like the safe path is like, I don't know, just the
Mhm.
everybody else that's 20 years old doesn't really have a story like yours to tell. And like
Yeah. Thank you.
and it's very obvious that you're just in the middle of it. Like that's
Mhm.
so cool.
Yeah.
And I was expecting this interview to go a completely different way. Like like in my mind, Josh Gavin's made it, and you're like, life has this way of like beating you down and like getting you to a point where it's like, no, humility is the only virtue. Like it is,
Mhm.
it really
Yeah.
is. Like, and
Exactly.
I've yeah, relate in so many ways about like there's so many gurus, so many people that make it seem way easier, way different than it actually is.
Mhm.
And um, yeah, it's inspiring, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I mean, these questions too, like I haven't like thought through my whole journey in a long time. So like
Yeah.
it's fun for me because it's gonna be fun to listen back to it and like remind myself, like, dang, like I've done it before, I've gone through stuff, I can do it again. And so I appreciate it too, because it's like I mean, and again, I still have a lot to learn. I'm 20 years old. I'm gonna fail. The amount of times I'm gonna fail in the future, it's crazy.
Mm,
And like that's why I love to be open and be like, yo, I didn't save any money, I was bad with my money, things went wrong, blah blah blah, because like it's the truth. I don't want to hide behind it. So
yeah. So
call it
cool.
vulnerability or whatever cheesy people say. I'm just like, y'all, this is real. And I'm just so I feel for all the people. Like the amount of times I think about those new agency owners, and people are like, "I'm starting my business." I mean, I'm sure you feel the same way. It's like you look at them and you're like, "That's awesome!" Like you have no idea what's ahead of you, and
Yeah.
I wish you could know, but like you kind of have to just like have faith in them to just like, hey, you got to jump out of the nest. Like
Yeah.
everyone
Yeah.
has to, and I just kind of like, great, go at it, but also be ready because it gets crazy.
Yeah. Love it, man. So let's see if you could go back to your 14 and a half year old self. We'll close with this question. What would you tell him?
Um, I would say one, stick to one thing. Um, don't date in high school. Um, yeah, stick to one thing. Don't date in high school. Um, don't fall like stay as far away from pornography as possible.
Mm.
Um, save majority of your money, and yeah, that's what I'd say.
I love
There's a
it.
couple things. There's a couple things in there, but that I feel like if I would have done all those things, even though they're maybe indirect to my business, I would have made $1 million by now, for sure.
Mm.
For sure.
So cool.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. Um, Josh Gavin, ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for coming on, man.
No problem, man. They're really awesome. Great questions.
Yeah, yeah.